A moment in time, photos can tell us stories of history, of people's lives, and even bring back memories of our own lives. But what if the photo looked like this? What story does that invoke of the people in the photo and the place that this photo was taken?
I took this photo 2 years ago on a service learning trip to Haiti. Haiti is a Caribbean country located between Puerto Rico and Cuba and shares an island with the Dominican Republic. With a GDP of $8.5 billion, Haiti is the poorest country on the Western Hemisphere and struggles with issues such as lack of access to education and healthcare. So in a place like that, it's no wonder that I managed to get a photo like this. But what if I told you that these photos were also taken in Haiti? And not only were they taken on the same trip, but within the same day. I was in Haiti for a total of 9 days, and during the course of those 9 days, I took roughly 2,000 photos. And although some of them resemble the first photo I showed you earlier, the vast majority actually fall into the second category, showing the vibrant culture of Haiti, its beautiful landscapes, and all of the wonderful people I met while I was there. When I got back to the United States, many of my friends were very eager to see my photos, saying that they had never seen what real poverty looked like. But they told me that what ended up surprising them the most about my photos were not the photos showing poverty. It was actually the photos showing everything else. For example, many of them didn't know that Haiti is a Caribbean country, so they were surprised to see my photos of these beautiful beaches. It also never occurred to them what Haitian food might look like until I took a photo of every single delicious meal I had while I was there. And all of them were completely shocked when they saw photos of this upscale resort that we stayed at on our last day there.
So it may seem a little strange at first to think that people would just forget that a Caribbean country has food and beaches and hotels, but I want you to take a second and consider the photos of Haiti that you would normally see. So before I left for my trip, I decided to look up some photos of Haiti online to help myself prepare. And I was looking for photos that would show Haiti's culture and day-to-day life, but what I ended up finding were photos showing things like earthquake refugee camps, garbage in the streets, and crumbling infrastructure. And it took around 10 minutes of me digging through these photos to find photos showing what I was looking for. So considering how many photos I found showing poverty and catastrophe, and how hard it was for me to find photos showing anything else, it becomes easier to see why my friends were so surprised at seeing my photos of beaches and of hotels. So as I was thinking about this, I was reminded of a talk that I saw a while back by Chimamanda Adichie. And in her talk, Adichie says, "The single story creates stereotypes. And the problem with stereotypes is not that they are untrue, but that they are incomplete. They make one story become the only story." And as I said before, photographs have the power to tell stories. And if the only photographs of Haiti we see are ones that tell stories of poverty, of conflict, and of suffering, then that is the only story we will recall when we think of Haiti. Now, this trend of negative media isn't exclusive to just Haiti. Many low-income countries are photographed and portrayed in similar negative ways. Much of the news we hear about low-income countries tend to be negative, covering stories such as lots of things. Covering stories such as political conflict, that's one, natural disasters, and disease outbreak. And because these stories are so shocking and because they are so prevalent, it becomes really hard for us to associate these countries with anything else. And what that ends up doing is that lumps all low-income countries under one stereotype of poverty, of conflict and suffering, and we fail to see these countries as diverse countries with distinct cultures and ways of life, and more importantly, different social, economic, and political situations. These are the things that the single story fails to acknowledge. So I didn't realize how powerful the stereotype was, or how big of a role photography played in perpetuating it until I took this photo. This photo was taken as we were hiking through the village of Borgne near where we were staying. And at that point, I'd been in Haiti for a total of 4 hours. So I was just super excited, and I was taking photos of everything that I saw. And as we were walking through the town, everyone was coming out of their houses to get a better look at the new tourists, and including this little girl. And as I walked by her, I noticed that the colors on her dress perfectly complemented the colors of the walls around her. So I thought this looked really cool. So without thinking, I just took a photo. But the minute she realized that I was going to take a photo of her, she immediately raised her hands and blocked her face from the camera. This girl couldn't have been more than 5 years old, but 5 years of being alive was enough to teach her to hide her face whenever she saw a camera lens pointed at her. Because at 5 years old, she already knew about the terrible stories that are told about her home and her country. So the people living in low-income countries are perfectly aware of how they are portrayed in the media and the stereotypes that we have of them. They are aware of how their kids, their homes, and their lives are photographed, often without permission, and that these photographs are then taken and used to perpetuate the stereotype that they are all pitiful and helpless. The stereotype is disempowering and dehumanizing. And for obvious reasons, this is really upsetting to them because it's not a good feeling to know that your image and your life are being exploited in such a way. So, are being exploited in such a way. Nope, that's not it. Sorry. So when I learned this, I decided that I was going to take photos of Haiti that would show it in a more honest light, showing the beauty and uniqueness of the country as well as its struggles. And as an amateur photographer traveling in Haiti for the first time, I definitely had my fair share of mistakes. Shortly after this photo was taken, I was yelled at by some women in the marketplace for attempting to take pictures of the fruit that they were selling. A couple of days after that, I got some really angry looks from some locals for taking a photo of what I didn't realize at the time was a sacred artifact. But by the end of the week, I had learned how to ask permission to take a photo in Creole. I had learned which settings were appropriate for me to bring my camera and when to leave my camera at home. And I even mastered the technique of holding my camera in such a way to make taking a photo as less intrusive as possible. But the single most important lesson that I learned about photography while I was in Haiti had little to do with the actual taking of a photo. I took this photo as we were walking by a stand selling fish one day. The stand was owned by a small family whose son was playing nearby, and as I walked past him, I noticed that his shirt was depicting my favorite childhood cartoon. And I was just thrilled by this. So I started to ask the parents if I could take a photo of their child. And they, like many before them, noticed my camera, noticed that I was a foreigner, and immediately got very reluctant and suspicious. Until I managed to communicate to them that it was actually the shirt that I was really interested in. And upon realizing this, they immediately relaxed and they laughed, and they let me take a few photos, and they even talked to me for a little bit. This conversation didn't last very long because I couldn't speak any Creole. But the point is that because I took the time to reach out and communicate my intentions and reasons for taking this photo, my camera became a way for me to communicate and form a connection with this family instead of forming an immediate barrier in communication. So the very act of putting aside my camera for just 1 second and taking the time to talk or even attempt to talk to the person that I'm interested in taking a photograph of tells them that I see them as more than just a photo subject. It shows that I'm willing to make a connection with them as a person and take a photograph of them that reflects who they are as human beings rather than just stealing an image to exploit. So the minute I reached out and made that connection, I dissolved the barrier that has been built up by stereotypes. This is one of my favorite photos from when I was in Haiti. So during our free time, students were allowed to hang out on the beach across the road from where we were staying. And a lot of the times, the neighborhood kids would all come out and join us. So we spent a lot of time interacting with them. And they loved the camera and would always ask me to do little photo shoots for them. So one day, I decided that I would show them the selfie function on my camera, where I could flip up the screen and show them what they looked like on the camera's display. And I managed to snap this as they were all laughing and giggling at seeing their faces on the screen. The reason I like this photo so much is because it was taken as I was interacting and bonding with the local kids. These are the same faces they would make whenever I would speak to them in broken Creole or whenever they found a rock and would give it to me as a gift. This photo shows the bright and playful personalities of many of the children I met while I was in Haiti. I'm going to show you a few more of my favorite photos. Here's a photo of one of the toy cars that the children would make by repurposing the garbage that they found on the streets. really clever. This is a photo of Rosie, a woman who built her own business by selling hand-woven baskets and handbags that she makes herself. This is a photo of a farm that grows all of the staples of Haitian cuisine, including plantains, taro, and the best tasting chocolate you could ever imagine. What all of these photos have in common is that the story that they tell is a positive one and is every bit as true as a photo showing poverty and suffering. At the end of her talk, Adichie says that stories matter. Many stories matter. Stories have been used to dispossess and to malign, but stories can also be used to empower and to humanize. Stories can break the dignity of a people, but stories can also repair that broken dignity. So, what if the media started showing more photos of people living in low-income countries that were empowering and humanizing? What if every time we saw a photo of someone starving, we also saw photos of their full hearts and their unbroken spirits? What if wherever we saw poverty, we also saw resilience and determination in the face of adversity? What if every time we saw a photo that looked like this, we also saw photos that looked like these? And what if every time we see a photograph telling a single story, we were reminded that it is not, in fact, the only photograph, and that it is not, in fact, the only story? Thank you.